let them eat cake.
Here, take the bomb.
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of the Peasants Perspective. So glad to have you here with us this morning. Frazier is quick to the chats. He says, yes. Checking in from Idaho, where we are still trying to decide if potatoes are a side dish, a main course, or a personality trait. I got to tell you, when my family was moving from Utah to Idaho, I was a freshman. And so I was moving in for my sophomore year, right? And we had a year prior to that, we had just come from California. And when you watch the news in California, where we were at in Tracy, you get a lot of news coming out of the Bay Area and stuff. It's like every day there's like drive-by shootings.
Okay.
There was violence. There was big things happening. I mean, probably not nearly as much today. I don't think San Francisco was, there was no poop maps that you could download apps or anything, but it was rough. The news was hard to watch. And when I moved to Utah, it's a big city, Salt Lake Valley. It's a big city. There's always something big and major going on. Well, when my dad was trying to sell us kids on moving to Idaho, he's like, look, in Idaho, the news has biggest ball of yarn. And, it was like the Potato Day Festival. And, the harvest came in too much this year. He was like trying to tell us how there's no crime. Nothing bad ever happens in Idaho. It was kind
Did
of
he
fun.
sell you on the kids get to get out of school to go do the harvest?
Yeah. It was like, oh, and look, you could get your driver's license when you're 15. It was awesome. Good morning, Pony Boy. Glad you made it. At John Attack on YouTube. It is a good summer. Good morning. Summer is here. I know I'm wearing shorts. It's great. Still kind of chilly though. Pray the Rosary Daler, meat and potatoes. Love it from my hometown in Minnesota. How fun is that? You're a transplant to California, Pray the Rosary Daily. Not a lot of you guys, but I understand why you'd want to get out of Minnesota. That makes sense to me. All right, guys. I know why you come in bright and early. You come for the simultaneous sip. And all you need is a cup or a mug or a glass or a tankard or chalice, a stein, a canteen, jug or flask, a vessel of any kind. Fill it with your favorite liquid. This morning, I like coffee with a little bit of creamer. And fill it. And join me now for the unparalleled pleasure of the dopamine hit of the day, the thing that makes everything better, the simultaneous sip, and it starts right now.
Best instincts about human beings of anybody I've ever met. There's an almost spiritual dimension of where he understands whether somebody's telling him the truth or not. He understands whether somebody's trying to pull one over on him or not. But you have people who are constantly coming into the White House and asking for things. And he has this unbelievable ability to sniff out whether this person wants this thing because it's good for America or because he wants it because it's good for him.
You can get.
That's a great little assessment by JD Vance. Again, who made the media rounds the last couple of days like nobody's business. He was like on every show. It was wild. So anyways, JD Vance talking about Donald Trump. He's got an uncanny ability to read people. I actually surmise that most presidents have some really unique characteristics, right? And I imagine every one of them is more unique than the next. Like,
I don't think you gravitate to the most powerful position on the planet without having some kind of instincts.
Yeah. I even think about Joe Biden. Like, what an exceptional blackmailer he must be. You know what I mean? He must have been one of those guys, just no shame, and he could just use everything against you. Just,
Well, he's in there for 50 years. He had a lot of time to hone his craft.
Yeah, for sure. It's always makes me really uncomfortable when a politician says, I had to sell my soul. It's right. I remember when Joe Biden early on, I had to sell my soul. I had to go to the rich people and prostrate myself before them. I just recently heard another politician locally had to say the same thing. I had to sell my soul, but not my values. And it was like, I don't know if I like that qualifier. I'm a little bit uncomfortable with that. Anyways, good stuff. So one of the things that Donald Trump has done is he's sniffed out that there's this FISA bill, right? FISA, Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. And the idea with FISA, when it was pitched to the Americans, as opposed to the politicians, when it was pitched to America, the idea was that we were going to use this incredible amount of technology that we had to be able to tap everybody's phone calls and everybody's digital communications around the world, but we'll exclude American citizens because you have rights that our government is supposed to protect. But we're going to spy on Al-Qaeda, the future ISIS. We're going to spy on Chechnyan terrorists, and we're going to spy on Mexican black hand gangs. And what we found through 702 is clearly the military uses it for targeting information and stuff like that. But when it comes to the FBI, they seem to have access to this as well, right? And we found out under the Christopher Wray administration that in a, I can't remember if it was a 1-year period, but it was a short time period. It was like 290,000 queries had been made into the FISA database just on American citizens, let alone those of us who just get our communications scooped up because somebody in a chat room is from another country, or you know what I mean? Like it's pretty prevalent. And they use FISA to target President Trump. They use FISA to go after Carter Page. They use the 2-hop rule. They went into a secret court to get those warrants. And so FISA has absolutely been abused. And it would make perfect sense for us as Americans in defense of our rights to want to get rid of it. However, we're being told, but then you won't be safe. We won't be able to bust terror plots from people trying to attack the UFC fight on the White House lawn that everybody's upset because nobody wants to do anything, dang it, right? We wouldn't be able to bust up those plots. Well, those are Americans. Yeah, but they use 702 spying, tools in order to do that. That's the conflict, right? We want to bust terror plots. Absolutely, we want to be able to use that technology to go after the Al-Qaedas of the world, but we don't want it to come after us. So how do we split the baby? So Donald Trump has figured out how to split the baby. He's like, okay, if you want this horrible spying bill, then I want the Save America Act attached. What does that do to the people who want to use 702? It's my belief that the people that want to use and abuse 702 FISA surveillance spying powers are the same cabal of people that try to overthrow our elections and control our country. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think it's the same cabal. So he's like, let me do the thing that can undo you, legitimize American elections. Well, yeah, I'll give you that power. But by the way, if we get better politicians in and we can appoint better bureaucrats and cabinet secretaries and stuff like that, maybe we just will voluntarily not abuse these tools, which is a possibility. There's also the possibility that if you get good guys in charge, they might use those tools to go after the actual, say it with me, bad guys. Okay. Like, for example, when Adam Schiff called the Russians and was like, oh, you have compromat? Yeah, let me get it. Turns out the only person who colluded with Russians to overthrow the United States government was Adam Schiff himself on a radio show in Russia where they prank called him pretending to have compromat on Donald Trump. Okay? So Donald Trump put out this post. He said, a few Democrats are against FISA with or without Bill Pulte going into DNI. As acting, what kind of deal is that? Besides, I'm against FISA. Oh, it's refreshing to hear him say that. I'm against FISA if it doesn't come with the Save America Act, the full version, firmly attached to it. Make America great again. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Oh my goodness. Yesterday we played the clip in private about with Senator Kennedy going, we have a 4-car pileup here. You've got FISA, Save America Act, Democrats, Rhino Party, and you've got MAGA like Luna and Burkhart who don't want to vote for FISA. It's beautiful. We have a total pileup here. So we'll see. We'll see. Part of me is like, they're probably going to try to pass FISA and put it on the president's desk without Save America on it. And then it's going to be, we're going to find out if Trump really is going to taco or not. Is he going to, Trump always chickens out? Is he going to sign it? Or is he going to go, nope, I want the Save America Act? In my opinion, this is just lowly little me who doesn't think lightning's ever going to strike his head, right? I don't plan on being a victim of a terror attack. I don't really go to places where terrorists hang out, I don't think. But having had FISA involved in my case, or at least in the entire narrative, I'd like to see FISA go away. I'd like to see, us have to do it the old school way, the hard way, actually catch bad guys and do the right due diligence.
And if people want to spy on Americans, just make it illegal. I mean, come on, man.
It's crazy. It's crazy. The other thing, too, is I don't even know that they need that information domestically. They can just buy most of your commercial data and extrapolate a lot of the same stuff.
That's the other thought I had is like, I don't know why we're arguing about this so hard, because they were probably spying on Americans before that. And if it goes away, they'll keep on doing it. It's not like they're going to stop.
I think the idea here, and I get this, you can come across evidence that's absolutely damning, but because of how you came across it, you can't get it into court.
Sure.
Right. So there's those protections. Like if you don't follow the process, the law to get a warrant, to get this information, you can't get it into court.
But if that's all we were doing, okay. But that's not what's going on.
Yeah. So, I grew up in a world of Echelon. Echelon was from my understanding, was a server farm down in Australia that was run by the United States that was collecting all the worldwide telecommunications. And if you said certain keywords, your phone call got targeted for review. Mickey Mouse is going to do da-da-da. Oh, those are all keywords. And they could target your phone call. But the idea was there wasn't a way to launder that back into the court system.
Sure.
Right. Sure. They can listen to you. And if you're talking to a foreigner and you're planning a bomb plot, you might get a knock on the door from somebody. But because then they could take that to the court and get a warrant. But they wouldn't just be able to use any other information. Well, now they can pretty much use the information because they have a back door to go take it into FISA and get it into the court system, which is exactly what we saw with the Russiagate thing. No better example ever than of that. They literally took information that was generated overseas, leaked it. The FBI leaked it to the media, who then published, of which they then went to their computers and they went to Yahoo News and Huffington Post and they hit print, on the information they had leaked to them, hit print, took it to the court, and then justified all the spying warrants against Carter Page, Papadopoulos, and others. And based on the 2-hop rule, pretty soon you're spying on any communication that's coming to, in, or around Donald Trump and the people that he was with.
Or the USA.
Yeah, people in the USA. So, when I came out of college, my close family and friends, they all thought I was like super liberal. And it wasn't that I was liberal in any way, and it wasn't that I wasn't patriotic. I was extremely patriotic. Just like many people, I love the idea of this country. I love the idea of the nation of the United States. But obviously, like many of us, we sometimes see that it doesn't live up to her promise.
Well, you were enrolled in ROTC, weren't you?
I was.
There you go. That's enough for me.
Into it.
That should be enough for anybody.
Yeah, but I didn't. I felt like our country wasn't living up to her promise, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of this for me early on centered around the conflict in the Middle East. I didn't feel like we had a justifiable reason to be in Iraq. Where's the yellow cake? Where are the weapons of mass destruction? And then turns out in one random cabinet meeting, George Bush is like, we're there for the oil. It was like, okay. I mean, okay, I get, all right, we're here for the oil. National security as well, right? As I get older, I understand how important oil is, but is it really worth 1 billion Iraqi lives? Right. Now,
and I brought up the ROTC because this is something that you were contemplating and thinking about a lot. It's not something that was a passing thought.
Deeply thinking about. Now, here, CNN ran this piece. This is another Harry Enton polling analysis. And it talks about the difference between Democrats and Republicans, what they think the July 4th is all about, and their love of the country and about the flag. Take a listen to this.
Are Americans feeling this morning? With us now, CNN chief data analyst.
We will
Harry
always remember Lexington and Concord, people. We will always remember it here on CNC.
Patriots Day versus the 4th. We know which one is more important, but the meaning of the 4th, when we ask voters about this, what do most of them say at this point?
This, to me, is one of the most stunning divides that we have seen. We're talking about polarization in politics. It even comes down to what you believe July 4th actually is. Like, what does July 4th mean to you? Celebrate America, friends and family time. Among Republicans, what do you see? You see the clear majority say it's a time to celebrate America, 65%. Among Democrats, however, the plurality disagree. Look at that. What do you see? Friends and family time at 42% versus just 24% who say that what it means most for them is to celebrate America. So even on the basic question of what July 4th means to you, we have Republicans on one end saying celebrate America, more of them say that, and Democrats on the other end saying that it means more to them to have time with friends and family.
What do they say?
So for Republicans, the 4th of July is a holiday to celebrate America, right? That is a day for patriotism. It's a day for parades. It's a day for fireworks. It as a means of celebration for what America is and everything.
I thought that's what it was for everybody.
Clearly, you would have been on that whole side, right? The GOP side. Democrats just view it as another day off. It's just another day off to spend time with friends and family. Hey, listen, we all like a day off.
Hey, this is a free country and you can do what you want. But if you think that's what 4th of July is all about, get bent, man. Yeah. What the hell's wrong with you?
Now, listen, I understand the sentiment. When it comes, I'll just give you an example. When it comes to Labor Day, listen, I don't go out and celebrate union workers.
Sure.
Okay. I wasn't raised in a tradition, and it's no different from Memorial Day for me. I don't think I've ever visited a grave site on Memorial Day. Just never was something we did. So those days to me are just days off.
I guess I'm biased. I'm exposing my biasness.
Yeah. I mean, but I talk to people all the time on Memorial Day that are like, oh, I'm going to go to the grave and we're going to,
Sure.
oh, okay. Well, I literally have nobody locally that I know that's in the grave that I would go visit. For moving around so much, there wasn't like, people that were related to me that were nearby that we would go visit. So it was really just a day at the lake,
Right.
So anyways, I can understand this, but it also does show that the Democrats have kind of lost the plot a little bit. It continues.
About the flag.
Yeah, okay. So what do they say about the flag? Even on the basic level of flag, look at this. Look at how we have an increasing polarization on this issue. We'll display the flag on July 4th, the American flag. Back in July of 2001, look at this. You had 68% of Republicans, 65% of Democrats saying that they would, in fact, display the flag on July 4th. You come over to this side of the screen, Republicans basically are where they were 25 years ago, right? 64%. But look at that Democratic percentage, absolutely plummeting. Just 27% of Democrats say they will, in fact, display the flag on July 4th. Democrats and Republicans in different camps, even on the simple question of displaying the flag on July 4th, a polarization, a split that simply put did not exist a generation ago.
What about the sloganeering about proud to be an American?
Okay, what about this idea? Are you proud to be an
So this is really interesting, right?
Yeah, this
flying.
is really interesting.
2001, flag flying was pretty much equivalent, right? You had most people just loved America. Vast majority of people, they'd fly a flag on the 4th of July. Now it's 1 in 4 Democrats. Okay, now it's 6 out of 10.
What is going on, America? Where's the patriotism?
Yeah.
American, extremely or very proud to be an American. Again, look at this divide, a growing divide on this question. Back in January of 2001, 90% of Republicans, 85% of Democrats. This was after a very contentious 2000 election, keep in mind, right? With George W. Bush coming into the White House.
I want to point something out here. January 2001, half the country still didn't have an email address. Okay, January 2021. Half the country
you're right
still
about
didn't have an email address. Half the country didn't have a personal computer.
Mhm.
Half the country wasn't on the internet at all. Okay, like we still don't have ubiquitous. Everybody's online one way or the other. You don't have
Right,
cell
the
phones.
online zeitgeist didn't really exist.
There's no social media. Doesn't exist.
Right.
Right. So how do you get your news? Local papers.
CBS, ABC, NBC.
5 p.m. news, right? We're still deep into Mockingbird media zeitgeist, right? Everybody's playing off the same sheet of music. And one thing the Democrats and Republicans always did was love America, right? That's what ties us together. Keep voting. What happens at the end of 2001?
September 11th.
2001. September 11th, 2001. Prior to this, political scandals were isolated to politicians. Bill Clinton.
Yes.
Right? Political scandals were isolated to little incidents. Iran-Contra, scapegoat, right? But the news media, the politicians, they all get in line. Yep, fixed it, moved on. Fixed it, moved on. Right? That is how the world operated. Fast forward to 9/11, and what happened? FISA got passed.
Oh.
Patriot Act got passed.
Oh.
We got involved in an endless war in the Middle East. So for 20 years, we were fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq, and then into Syria. We saw huge devaluation of our currency. We saw the No Child Left Behind Act get passed, which was the start of parental control and erosion in our country. We literally socialized education and took states' choices and school boards' choices away by tying everything in the school to money, right? To money. You'd only get federal funds, which, by the way, now that we hold the tools of power, we're using money to try to coerce schools. We'll cover that at the end of the show. So that happens. So liberals, who tend to be more about personal rights and individual rights, they become very upset at the state. This is the camp I fell in, right? Whoa. We're killing people overseas over oil. Why don't we just drill more oil here? You got the environmentalists shutting down
or do something
and all this stuff, and we're over there fighting and losing blood and treasure and killing other people in the process. So you can see, fast forward to 2026, proud to be American, the Democrats, who were the original anti-war people, have become disgusted with the country. Disgusted, right? Now we look at that and we're like, oh, they just don't have American pride. Why would they? I want to ask yourself, why would they? Even people like me who are conservative to their core would, on the surface, when other people look at it, listen, I'm committed to the truth. And once I understood the truth of what was going on in the Middle East, don't you come to me about some military appreciation day. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I just view you as another Roman soldier.
Okay.
Okay. So they are further along on this path. Now, obviously, that's not a good thing, because if you hate the country, it's hard to save the country. You see what I'm saying?
You know what's interesting about that is when I think about 4th of July, I completely, in my mind, skip over the Middle East, all that stuff. I skip over it, and I don't necessarily skip over Vietnam, but I kind of, my brain kind of goes straight to World War II and Korea and those conflicts where I feel like there was some kind of mental justification.
Totally understandable.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, the zeitgeist told us those were completely justifiable conflicts.
Yeah,
and
whether or not they really were.
You know, you could go and make a lot of arguments about World War II, whether it was worth it or not. But once we started uncovering concentration camps, and yes, I'm in the camp that there were concentration camps killing Jews and gypsies and outcasts in Germany and Eastern Europe, right? Then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, this was justified. This was a moral cause. Now, for students of history, you go, okay, that was justified. But why didn't we do anything about the Holodomor and the 20 million Ukrainians that were starved out by Stalin, our new ally or frenemy? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Of course, the moral card can only get played if you actually maintain your morality forever. So you got to find some other morality, right? You got to find some other morality. Okay. So it makes sense to me why Democrats were at the front edge of this. This is why people like Edward Snowden identified as Democrats. And what did they expose? Some of the worst things our country did. There's a movie that I watched in prison called, I think it's called The Report. And, you know, the blank reports, the torture report is crossed out. And it was Dianne Feinstein's staff member. And he has a prominent name. He comes up every now and then from the news, but he's become a very prominent Democrat lawyer. But he was in charge of finding out about all the torture that was happening in Guantanamo Bay and how, you know, we hired these consultants and they came down and they're waterboarding and electroshocking and keeping people up all night and putting violent dogs in people's faces. Some people died in Guantanamo under torture, and he was exposing all of this. Of all the torture they did, do you know how many leads they got that led to other terrorists? 0.
Yeah.
Right. Do you know how many people they grabbed off the streets and took down? Like there was one, I think it was in Michigan. Guy went to an ATM machine, and apparently this ATM machine was where someone else had used the ATM that was suspected to be a terrorist. And this guy had a Muslim last name. So they came and they black bagged him, took him off the street, grabbed his kids, grabbed his wife, took them off the street. The kids and wife were innocent. They dumped them back out into the community like a week or two later. And they're going, we just got taken captive. Nobody listened. Where's dad? Where's dad? Where's dad? Where's dad? Where's dad? A couple years later, he pops up. He'd been down in Guantanamo Bay getting tortured. What was his crime? Using an ATM machine where another suspected terrorist had been using an ATM machine.
Man.
And did you know about this story? Of course not. Hard to be proud. Hard to be proud, right? Some innocent guy just taken off the street, black bag. Thank you, Patriot Act. So I get it. I'm not justifying hate for America. I'm just saying I can understand how you could get those numbers down there. Now, the conservatives, right, the Republican Party, up until very recently with MAGA, has been dominated by boomers. In 2021, what was the half of America that didn't have email addresses? The boomers.
Yeah.
The internet exposed these lies. Let's continue.
Come over to this side of the screen in 2026. Look at this. Again, the Democratic percentage absolutely plummets to just 29% of Democrats say they're extremely or very proud to be an American. That Republican percentage, the exact same, 90 and 90. The Democratic percentage, what is that? That's basically a third of the level that it was just 25 years ago.
I think you're right to point out this was a time when Democrats might have been feeling badly about the course of the country. Still, 85% said they were proud to be American. Something's changed.
Something has absolutely changed, despite the fact a contentious time then, a contentious time now, and yet Democrats, that extremely very pride number has absolutely plummeted.
I can tell you the thing that changed more than anything else was the 20-year war in the Middle East. That is the thing that changed. The younger generations who skew liberal anyways were online and they got to see that war play out very differently than the people who watched it play out only watching Fox News. They got to see it play out very differently. If you watch Fox News, you never saw the videos coming out of Abu Dhabi, not Abu Dhabi, but the prison.
Abu Ghraib.
What is it?
Ghraib.
Yeah, Abu Ghraib. You never saw those videos. Fox News didn't play them. Neither did CNN. Neither did MSNBC. But I saw them. It's hard to get excited about a soldier in uniform when you watch one of those videos and you see what they were doing in uniform. Right? It's hard. War is horrible. War is horrible, and it brings out the worst in everybody. Like, again, I want to say I'm a patriot as much as anybody else. I want to fight for this country. Okay. But at the same time, when we're talking about the nation, the political association, the United States of America, the government, I'll join with the liberals and say I'm highly suspect. Right? I will join with the liberals and say I'm highly suspect. We just lived through another huge major crisis in America. It was COVID, 2020. Nobody was not impacted by COVID. We still drive around and see people wearing masks inside their cars by themselves.
Oh, yeah.
See people walking down the street on a sunny day wearing a mask.
By themselves.
The way, I've got to travel the country a little bit recently. You see the masks everywhere. It's not like I was in Missouri and some dude's wearing a mask in the gas station. I'm like, all right, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, go for it. Now, conservatives,
maybe it's just a fashion choice at this point.
Yeah, conservatives under Donald Trump's leadership have blamed it all on China. It's all China manipulating viruses. Wuhan came out of China. Now, there's an interesting variation that's a conspiracy that there's actually a China Ukraine, spelled with a Y, C-Y, or C-H-Y-N-A, and that happens to be where one of these biolabs is. So there's this conspiracy that Trump was trying to tip us off that the virus actually came out of China, Ukraine, and not China, the nation, China, right? I don't know about that, but we do know this. Tulsi Gabbard just released all this information about the virus. Now, keep in mind, we're talking love of our nation, right? We're talking about do-gooders. We're talking about ultimate morality, where we put individual rights so much so that we will weaponize the collective to protect you, the individual. It's a powerful concept that our founding fathers gave us. So you would think that we would not do things as a nation that could potentially kill the world or destroy the world's economy or something like that, that we would hold those tools for the most precise of things. Well, Tulsi Gabbard just revealed that it was in fact the United States who created the COVID-19 virus. Here it is, unclassified, Defense Advanced Research and Projects, 13th of August, 2021. We knew this in 2021. Go down here, it says, references all the stuff. SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19, is an American-created recombinant vaccine, or its precursor virus. It was created by an EcoHealth Alliance program at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. We paid for it. We sent scientists over with it, and we did it overseas. Why? Because we're sneaky puffers.
Too bad we couldn't have read this letter in August of 21.
But it done something about it, right? Why? Because we're sneaky puffers. We're sneaky puffers. There's yellow cake in Iraq. No, there's oil. Okay. We're sneaky puffers. As suggested by the reporting surrounding the lab leak hypothesis, the details of this program have been canceled since the pandemic began. These details can be found in the EcoHealth Alliance proposal, response to DARPA preempt program, broad agency announcement dated March 18th, 2018. A document not yet publicly disclosed. Oh. So there we have it. Right? I make this point, and this is part of why we're peasants. It doesn't actually matter to me if you're a Republican or Democrat. It doesn't matter to me, right? Those are political debates. You want to talk about tax rates, how big or small the social safety net should be. You want to talk about, should we spend money filling potholes or should we build a new stadium? That's a big debate, right? I mean, there's all kinds of debates we can have about how we, the people, want our states, our cities, our counties, and our country to be. Those are great. But we unify under this idea that America provides freedom, America provides all this stuff. But when you start digging down the rabbit hole, you start to wonder, man, it does feel like it's always the government versus the people. And every now and then when the government needs the people to get on board, we see a psyop, we see a spin, we see a story. The yellow cake. We got to go get the yellow cake.
The people get lied to.
The terrorists, we get lied to. Okay. But once you know that you've been lied to, it's hard to unsee it. If they try to run another, worldwide virus, it could be legitimate. And we're all going to look at that and go, yeah, right. FOIA the bank records. We probably paid for it.
The boy's crying wolf again.
Crying wolf. You're going to see all the Republicans lose their minds. Okay. Republicans want to fight for the country for the sake of the country and what she could represent.
Yeah.
Democrats have become highly aware of what she is. Okay.
Of money
what
machine.
She is. A money machine. Yes. Now, I'm not justifying communism. I'm not justifying the hate for your country to the point that you take action against your country. I could never justify that, right? But we as peasants, we have to sit back and realize we have way more in common with your local neighbor who just happens to vote Democrat, right? We have way more in common with them than we don't. But we have to also acknowledge the fact that they might see things differently than we do, right? They might see things differently than we do. There is in Minnesota 15 people who have been indicted for crimes against the state, and they're part of this Antifa plot group. Well, this is one of the people who was indicted in that group of 15 people.
I've never been violent. I've never had trouble with the law. The only thing I did was care about my community and my neighbors. And I would, against the government's violence to our communities, and to try to mitigate and help those affected, because
I could have said the same thing on January 7th.
I'm feeling it. Yeah.
I could have said the same thing on January 7th. Right. Once you see what our government does over there, why wouldn't they do it over here? Right. They don't care. I don't like the hair. I don't like the look. Yeah. She clearly looks like someone that probably isn't going to run in my social circles.
Probably not.
But she's actually like, I've never been in trouble with the law, but I want to protect who? My community from who? The boogeyman.
Yeah. And
who's the boogeyman? It's the guys in badges that abuse their power. This is the really unfortunate thing about this show. It's hard because on one hand, we want to be, space race team player one.
Yeah.
We want to get on board and we want to play the team game and stuff like that. But on the other hand, hey man, there's real world impacts. It was very difficult for me to sing the national anthem when I was in prison with the other J6ers. That was really hard for me. I was like, okay, guys, I get it. We're trying to see through the fog that we're in, but this story's not told yet. This might end up being just another nasty empire.
I think when it comes to things like that, you have to sing because you have to sing for the country that you want.
You have to take it back. Yeah. And I came to that conclusion ultimately.
Yeah.
Right. I came to that conclusion, but I understand. She's like, hey, I want to protect my community.
Sure.
Now, what we view as who we're protecting. Okay. Maybe she goes a little too hard for protecting the 1% transgenders, whatever the case is. Okay. But nonetheless, listen, directionally, we get it. We have to fix this place. If you listen to a Bernie Sanders stump speech and you break it down to some bullet points of the problems, and you listen to a Donald Trump 2016 Trump speech and you break it down to the bullet points of the problems, guess what? Same problems.
Yeah. Have you seen that clip where that guy's describing that, you have to really abuse a mammal to get it to
get him to stop breeding?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the same type of thing where we're being abused to the level where we don't know how to be patriotic.
Exactly. And keep in mind, make America great again, as if she isn't currently.
Right.
This theme of we've lost our course. This is where we have to unify. If you really want to change things, we have to agree we've lost our course. Now we get back to first principles. What does the Constitution say about the structure of government? What does the Bill of Rights say about individual liberties? If we can unify with our neighbors on this, the fact that North Kitsap has a representative that's running against the incumbent Democrat, who is a Democrat who carries a pocket constitution, this is what I'm talking about, right? Yes, we've lost the plot. We have lost the plot. How do we unify? Now, the story for her gets a little bit more sad because now she's a targeted person.
They've been terrorizing us, and I can't just sit there and not do anything, but I definitely would never do anything illegal. And it sickens me, and it makes me really sad that this is happening to me and others, because none of us deserve this, because all we want to do is create a better world, a better community.
They have unfairly characterized her as a fugitive in the media. She is far from a fugitive. She's a wonderful person, a wonderful citizen.
I've never been violent. I've never had trouble with the
Okay, Taylor, if you would just read that script, that would be you.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
She could be a J6er.
Yes. Yes. This is the point. People can't sometimes figure why I don't want to be on a team, why I don't want to join the Proud Boys, or I don't want to join the Oath Keepers. And sometimes I'm critical of them. It's because those groups start to get into these nonsense stuff. He's me and I am her, right? I don't know anything about what she's actually advocating for. For all I know, she's super, wants illegal immigrants living next door.
Sure.
That's a policy debate.
Right.
That's a policy debate. Now, I don't know what kind of action she took. I don't know if she's just another one of these guilty by association people because she's in the chat room. I don't know how incendiary her comments were. But hey, just like I was saying yesterday, or actually I was saying it in 1776 Live, I've had my throwaway comments read back to me in a courtroom, and they looked horrible. Burn it down. Fire tag emoji, burn it down, right? I didn't actually mean burn down DC. I just meant burn down the representation of the imperial city that lords over us, right? I should have typed it all out like that. Instead, I just went hashtag emoji, fire it down.
Hey, man,
right?
you were busy. You had places to be.
Yeah. So I just, I try to bring it back to a policy point, back to a debate about what it is that we want to accomplish and if these policies are going to work and stuff like that. But at the same time, yes, Ron, you could take that transcript and that could have been me standing out the court. In fact, I'm pretty sure I said all those same words. I've never been in trouble. I've never broken the law. I would never advocate to break the law. If the police would have gotten on a bullhorn and said, you can't stand here, I would have left. They never told me not to be there until, in fact, even after they beat us with the baton and pepper sprayed us, I went back to the exact same spot and they still didn't tell me to leave.
When I assumed that the gal next to her was her attorney.
Yeah.
I was like, man, that could have been your attorney. I mean, the same words.
I know.
The exact same words.
Yes. And the reason I'm saying this is, again, I want to fall into the camp of loving my country, but I refuse to fall into the camp of blindly following the nation, right? And by nation, I mean the political construct that is the United States of America. The country is Alaska, Washington, Oregon, California, Nevada, over to Florida, up to Maine. It's the four corners of the 48 plus the extra 2 states plus the territories. That's the country, the land and her people. I cannot be separated from the land. I belong to it. From dust I come, to dust I go, right? That is worth fighting for. My neighbors, my community members, that is worth fighting for. That is why I stood up on January 6th, because I felt like our nation was being stolen from the country of whom she rightfully belongs.
Correct. Regardless of what political entity was creating or causing the problem.
I could be totally happy with Joe Biden in office, no matter how corrupt I thought I was, if I actually believed that that election was fair.
Yeah.
Right. If I actually believed it was fair. So I stood up for her. And I was someone who was very outspoken for the Muslim community. And I very much dislike the religion of Islam. Right. But I spoke up for the Muslim community. Why? Because I saw the abuses after 9/11. I studied them. I was one of the first generations to fully adopt the internet. I got to see the torture videos in Iraq that the boomers didn't get to see. You know, it was hard to, hey, listen, you know, the president says he's got intelligence and, you know, I mean, the church I went to, our church leader literally said, trust the government because they have better intel than we do. Okay. Do they know where the yellow cake's at? You know what I mean? Like, okay. That's my genesis there is this. It's not that I support the Democrats or the communists. I think they're crazy. I think they can do an incredible amount of damage. I think that their policies will lead to all kind of depravity and hopelessness for our nation.
And the ruin of this country.
But I understand why. Which is why we have to MAGA this place. We have to make America great again. not some conglomerate, not break it up, not have a national divorce or a civil war. We have to go back to first principles. That's what it boils down to. We have to figure out how to go back to first principles so we can fix the Patriot Acts, so we can fix the No Child Left Behind Act, so we can fix the, the numerous abuses that have been levied against us through the policy in our legislatures. We have to take it back. I would love to see a coalition, which there was a lot of Democrats, right? Remember, there was the documentary they did that had Amy Klobuchar in it. Even Kamala Harris made a cameo in it, talking about how elections were problematic with the machines and all this stuff. Suddenly, Joe Biden gets in and they're like, it works. Elections are great. Right. And now the Republicans that we have control of the apparatus, and Liberty Vote bought the machines from Dominion, and Liberty Vote is owned by a conservative out of Missouri. We're like, stop talking about the machines. No, they work.
And the company's named Liberty. So, geez.
Yeah. And meanwhile, our politicians are like, yeah, Republicans are going to win the midterms. The polling doesn't show that. Republicans are going to win the midterms. I have a feeling you're just going to steal it for you now. Yeah. Right. So in response to the 15 people being indicted in Minnesota, people showed up at the courthouse and made their voices heard. Well, having been one of those people, I just say, take it and smile, folks. The solution to this is simple. It took me 20 years to come to it. You have to opt out. You have to participate with all of your heart. You've got to get involved locally. But when it comes to you and your house, there's that old scripture, right? Me and my house, you can serve whatever gods you want. But for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. Okay. Yep. You have to make your own decisions. There's some ways that you can opt out, that you can remove your acquiescence to the system, because the system, we're all deeply involved in it. We all prop it up by using money, by using dollars. We all prop it up by continuing to go to the courts. And I'm not saying there's not room for courts. We have to have courts, but go to courts to be litigious instead of trying to settle our differences face to face. How many neighborhoods have been destroyed because two neighbors had a property dispute and they couldn't work it out. So they went to court, and then it becomes this thing that's much larger than they can handle. This happens every day. Okay. So how do you opt out? The solution is simple. Go back to first principles. If you have a duty to speak and have a right to have your voice heard, then you have a duty to speak. First Amendment. If you have the right to self-defense, then you have a duty to defend yourself. Second Amendment. If you have a right to not have soldiers in your house spying on you and manipulating your life, then you have a duty to do that. I got my ghost phone. You know what's funny? I actually spend way less time on my phone now with the ghost phone than ever before. You know why?
Less engagement.
It's less engagement. The advertisers can't target me to keep me on there. You know what else? The refresh rate on the screen doesn't hypnotize you. Oh. I literally can just put my phone down. I'm not like screen attached to it. I didn't even know how big of an effect that was. Right.
Is that a setting you can change on your phone?
You can't. But on the ghost phone, it's the refresh rate isn't there. In fact, I'm constantly like having to turn up the brightness because I'm like, I'm bored. It's like, maybe it's because I can't read it. No, it's plenty bright enough. But that's so funny. They got the refresh rate to the point where it doesn't hypnotize you. I don't want to have the government constantly listening. I know my microphone's off. I know my camera's off. I can control that, right? Ghost phones, mark37.com. Fourth Amendment. I have a right to be secure in my person's papers and things. That means I have a duty to be, right? It means I have a duty to be.
Sounds like we have a duty to get rid of FISA.
Yes. Well, you know how you get rid of FISA? Here you go. Make it hard. Yeah. Right? You don't want them tracking you? Make it hard. Make personal decisions. When it comes to money, right? How do you opt out of the war machine? This is one of the huge things I found amongst Bitcoiners. Universally anti-war. I fit in. Yeah. Right? Universally anti-war. Universally personal sovereignty. And not in the weird sovereign citizen sense, but in the real tangible, like, hey, I want to hold my gold. There's a lot of boomers that are gold bugs and silver bugs, and they've got physical silver. Essentially useless, right? But I understand the sentiment. You want to hold your wealth. Well, Bitcoin allows you to do the thing. This is Luke DeWolf, and he's the author of a book called Defending Bitcoin. Talks about privacy, right? And he talks about how you can become anonymous in the Bitcoin ecosystem and in the digital space. it's incredibly important for us to follow this lead. If you want to fix the world, fix the money. And you know how you fix the money? Start using the alternative.
Opting out is the main thing you can do here, right? Pulling your energy from the system. Jeff Booth talks about this all the time, and just getting yourself out of fiat and taking your energy out of that system takes away the control that they have, right? So move your energy into Bitcoin. But the other thing is we have to live in the real world, right? We have to live in these places, and resisting tyranny, resisting ways that coercion can be used against all of us. That this is major stuff. I mean, whenever you hear about legislation that tries to increase surveillance or increase government control, just in the UK, they're announcing that under 16s aren't going to be allowed on the internet, social media, which means everyone's got to prove they're older than 16, and so that's just a big sneaky government control kind of thing. I kind of envy you guys in the States for a lot of the rights protections you guys have, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of ways to be coercive in the financial system, right? Now, a practical thing, and this might not be like a super popular idea, but getting a second passport is just one defense against regulatory measures that might not be super nice, right? If you have a second means of getting out of your country, if you're targeted for some reason, or there's legislation that you just absolutely can't live with, having a second passport that you can use. I mean, there are a lot of plans, especially for people in the States, if you have ancestry from a handful of countries, where you can go get citizenship through ancestry for that country, right? Something I highly recommend. I'm basically going and doing it and getting an EU passport, which might not sound great, but compared to a Canadian one, I think it's a pretty good step. And then the whole thing with you can basically just buy another passport from a Caribbean island or a bunch of other places, right? So yeah, at the end of the day, just resisting politically is one thing, but there's only so much you can do in a democracy and a democratic system. And advocating for you, your friends, your family to just opt out, get out of the system, and have backup plans, like everything else, have a backup plan. So that's this Plan B passport system, which I talked about. Just have options. And so it's not perfect. The world is in a pretty crazy place. Clown world is a good word for it, and we're really trying to fight that here as Bitcoiners, right? Fight for our sovereignty, fight for our freedom, and I'm optimistic in some ways, in a lot of ways even, but it is definitely going to be a fight, and the political regulatory fight is something that could go for the remainder of our life. And I'm just hoping that Bitcoin can suck enough energy out of the system that it can no longer cease to function as a tool of oppression.
And that's the idea. Opt out, right?
Ponyboy asked a good question.
Ponyboy said, with that phone, do you use a normal provider like Verizon and just have the phone, or do they provide phone and service? Okay, so the ghost phones are phones that they're typically Google Pixel phones, and they strip off the Google. I mean, they strip it down to the hardware, and then they upload onto it a Linux-based operating system called Graphene OS.
Okay.
And that allows you to have an unbelievable amount of flexibility. The whole thing is open source. And what does that mean? Open source developers can see what's happening with the phone, and they can, make it so that advertisers can't watch what you're doing. You can sandbox your app. So yeah, you have to have some app. Uber. When I was traveling, I had to download Uber to pick up an Uber, which I ended up not doing. My wife ordered it for me, but I downloaded the app Uber, logged in, did the whole thing. I put it into a sandbox. Did you know Uber wants access to your microphone, your camera, your contacts, your photos? It's like, why does Uber?
All the apps want all the access.
They want all the
time.
access,
It's
right?
ridiculous.
It lists it when you download an app, because it's open source. The people have gone through the code. It lists all the permissions it's going to ask for, all the things it's going to access on your phone, and in the background, by the way. Okay, so I was able to put it in a sandbox, so Uber couldn't see what I had in my photo gallery. They couldn't.
Yeah, if you see some of the code lines on some of these like apps that are just like games and whatever, you'll be like, "Man, who wrote this? NASA?"
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, it's great, but you can put it on any phone carrier, because they can take SIM cards. So you just literally, if you've got a SIM card on your phone, you literally just pull the SIM card out, put it in this phone, turn it on, it works.
It's just like a jailbroke phone.
And they offer training too. There are, for example, Patriot Mobile will not disclose user information that is not required through warrant. right? So they get some data, but they won't track it beyond, or they won't do anything with it. They won't resell your data. So you can always switch to Patriot Mobile, and they go with all the carriers, but they become a buffer between you and AT&T and you and Verizon, and they don't literally take that data and sell it to advertisers. They make their money from your subscription to their service. There's another one, I think it's called Freely, and it's another service that the only piece of information that they track from you is your zip code. That's the only identifier. So when the big daddy company like AT&T or Verizon says, hey, there's a geocache warrant for all the phones in that area, the only thing they'll provide is your zip code. That phone number, right, belongs to this zip code. That's the only thing they track in their system. So you can even go a little bit deeper in your privacy depending on your carrier. I'm just using my normal carrier. Now, I have the attitude, I don't really have anything to hide except for me. I'm the only thing that needs to hide. I don't have anything I need to hide. I just need to hide me, my individual self, right? So yeah, it's great. And you just buy the phone. They're refurbished and they come preloaded. If you buy it from Mark 37, use promo code LIVE1776. It's in the show notes. They provide the phone. It's preloaded, and they have a really nice tutorial that's step by step. Obviously, you have to migrate over. Changing phones. If you're an Apple person, migrating to a Linux space is a little bit hard. There's a couple hiccups, right? Because Apple is such a tight ecosystem. But if you have an Android phone, switching over is relatively easy.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah. Anyways, but you have a duty to do it. The government isn't going to do it for you. This has been proven. Okay. This has been proven. They might make a law that says they can't spy on you, but there's no law that says they can't buy your data. Okay. And what is spying anyways? I bought it commercially, right? Another big thing too, right? When we're in the system, specifically in the money system, suddenly things like the interest rates and the Federal Reserve become all important parts of your life. I remember the International Court of Crimes or whatever that was going after a bunch of child crimes around the world. They had a banker from Italy come in, and maybe he was from Brussels. I can't remember. But anyways, he came in and he had risen to the level of in the international banking community to the point where he was invited to a party where they were killing a child.
Oh,
yes. And these were bankers.
Oh,
Yep. And he broke down, became a whistleblower. His life was destroyed for it, but that was a step too far. Yeah. But he said, as he climbed the ladder, they would do things like they would shift monetary policy in the European Union, and they would destroy a country. They destroyed Greece. They tried to destroy Italy, and they would laugh about the fact that lots of small business owners would go bankrupt, and then their businesses would be bought up by bigger businesses who, of course, were in bed with the big banking cartels, right? And they would laugh about it. They'd read a headline saying some business owner committed suicide. Then, sucker, right? And so that attitude was so permissive. Opt out, right? Yesterday, the Federal Reserve announced their interest rate change, cut, or not change. We'll get there in a second. I'll leave the suspense. This is Peter Navarro before that meeting, talking about what the Fed should do. Again, monetary policy matters to everybody, unless you can figure out how to opt out.
Look, I just would ask the media who hate Trump and you want rates to raise and spin the inflation song to just go back and look at two pieces of history. One is the Bernanke-Greenspan positions when there were oil price shocks. They did not raise rates. In fact, Bernanke lowered them going into 2007.
That's when he says an oil price shock. So inflation is classically defined as cost of goods going up. Why do cost of goods go up? Under a gold standard, it goes up because the inputs to get it, the gold mine or the inputs to get it are running up. You're buying salt. Salt was cheap. The salt mine is now out of salt. Salt is more scarce. The price of salt goes up.
Yeah.
Okay. That's natural inflation. And it happens when whatever you're buying becomes scarce. Because we have made it to where things are abundant, right? They're not hardly scarce at all. Prices typically don't go up because there's not enough TVs on the shelf at Walmart. Prices don't typically go up because we're running out of salt in your local salt mine. We just pull it from another salt mine and ship it over here, right? We have this incredible worldwide economy where goods are moving all over the world. So typically there's no shortage of goods, but there can be a shortage of things like oil or a high cost of oil, which goes into everything, transportation, all that kind of stuff. So that price raising is actually organic. right? It's actually happening because the cost of production is going up, not because what inflation has become under the Keynesian law of economics. There's too many dollars being printed that are chasing those goods, right? If a pound of salt costs $10 and there's only $1,000 in circulation, it's 10% of the it's 1% of the economy. If we put $2,000 into circulation and we haven't added any more commodities, then that is still 10% or 1% of the economy. Now that pound of salt's going to cost $20. Did the salt mine run out of salt? No. Is it more scarce? No. But there's more dollars chasing that 1 pound of salt, the 1% of the economy, and therefore the price naturally has to double. And so the Fed, who just assumes that all inflation is caused by them, right, when inflation goes up naturally, then their instinct is to what? Turn off the money printer, slow down the supply of dollars, make it harder to get new dollars, okay? That is the way that the Fed has operated. The problem is if you raise rates in the face of organic inflation due to a supply shock like oil costing more because it became more scarce with the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, you actually work against the market. Well, that's the moment when you need to print money, right? And so that's what Peter Navarro is pointing out is there have been some Fed governors who kept rates the same or even lowered them when organic inflation was happening. And when they could recognize the difference when it was fake inflation. What we saw under Jerome Powell, for example, the Inflation Reduction Act, which was really the Inflation Increasing Act, they actually lowered rates when there was more money chasing. So they added more money to the market. Opposite.
What you do. The other piece of history is your point, Steve, which was an excellent one. There's never been a time in history when we've had a Fed chair stay on who was both hostile to the sitting chair and had a majority of members to be a shadow chair. So that's what this particular 2 days is going to be about. We are going to see whether Jay Powell is going to exercise authority as a shadow chair using people who are frankly of low IQ in a majority and do stupid stuff like raising rates.
That's right. Right. A, because they're low IQ as to what's really happening. And B, because they just hate Trump and low rates would be good for the economy right now. At least we would think it was good because we'd see a lot more money floating around, right? It catches up to you eventually. So this was the decision. This is Kevin Warsh and his first press conference as the Fed chairman. And they decided to, well, keep interest rates.
As we saw a few moments ago, the committee decided to maintain the target range for the Fed funds rate at 3.5% to 3.75% in support of the Fed's dual mandate. The committee also reaffirmed its policy of maintaining ample reserves in the banking system. Economic activity is expanding at a solid pace, despite elevated uncertainty that owes in part to the conflict in the Middle East. Productivity growth and capital investment both strong. Job gains have kept pace with the workforce, and the unemployment rate has changed little. We recognize that inflation has been running well ahead of the Fed's long-stated inflation goal of 2%. That's been going on for more than 5 years. Persistently high prices are a burden for the American people. But the recent past need not be prologue. I am pleased to report that members of the FOMC are unambiguous and unanimous. This committee will deliver price stability. At any institution, a change in leadership is a natural and timely opportunity to reaffirm its mission, to review current practices, and to consider whether those practices best meet our objectives. My Fed colleagues and I will be working in close collaboration to ask what changes might improve the conduct of monetary policy. On that score, you might have already noticed something, a difference in today's policy statement. It's a bit shorter, a bit simpler, and it dispenses with some older language. That statement just gives you the facts as best we can judge it. Absent also is so-called forward guidance, which we agreed was not well suited to the current policy conjuncture. This afternoon, you also received the usual summary of economic projections. It's been the practice of this committee for participants to submit these projections, and I have encouraged my colleagues to continue to do so. I, however, have refrained from offering any projections of my own, consistent with my long-held views on the SEP, at least as currently structured. In the median projections, real GDP rises at 2.2% this year, 2.3% next year, and total PC inflation runs at 3.6% this year, 2.3% next year. The unemployment rate stands at about 4.3%. The median participant is at the appropriate federal funds rate to be at 3.8% at the end of this year and 3.6% at the end of next.
Okay. So interest rates are going to stay the same. We're essentially going to have the same policy for at least the next 6 weeks. But Kevin Warsh did say something that was really interesting at this. He admitted something that, to my knowledge, no other federal governor or federal chairman has admitted openly.
And commitment to deliver on our price stability objective of 2%. That's exactly what we're going to do. In the Fed's review of its strategy over the last any number of years, in January, the Fed, including the strategy that we're still bound by, the Fed statement says that inflation is primarily determined by monetary policy. You bet it is. I've said for years, inflation is a choice. You bet it is. And today I'm announcing that this committee unambiguously and unanimously have decided we are going to deliver on that. The rest of your questions sounded like an encouragement for me to give forward guidance. We've dropped forward guidance. Some along the committee, I think, dropped it, I suspect, from our discussion the last couple of days, because they said at this moment in time, it doesn't feel as though providing forward guidance is right. Others have, I'd say, different views and think as a general proposition, forward guidance isn't the business we should be in. But that'll be taken up by the Task Force on Communications and my policymaker colleagues. We're going to listen hard to what the experts say and make our own decision. But I can't give any forward guidance about what we're going to do next.
So inflation is a choice.
Huh.
God, where was that when Janet Yellen was at the Treasury? It's transitory. It just happens. Nobody can control this. No, it is a choice. When your price of goods go up over time, I'm not talking about, they killed all the chickens and now the cost of eggs are more expensive. Then we got the flock back and now the cost of eggs are at an all-time low. I'm not talking about that. That's a supply thing. That's actual laws of economics.
Right.
What I'm talking about is when you've got a new $1 trillion every year chasing the same pound of salt, right? The same dozen eggs, the same steak, the same house. That inflation is absolutely a choice. So one of the other things is they're not going to do forward projections. What does this mean? It means that we don't know what they're going to do in 6 weeks. We're not tipped off. The way it's been before is they go, next time we meet, we might raise the rates. Well, that encourages people to hurry up and go out and borrow today. Or they'll go, oh, we're going to lower rates. That discourages people from borrowing today.
Or it affects people's activity in the stock market.
And they're saying, no, just read the economy for what it is. You make your own decisions. Let the market react to what it's seeing in the market, not to what they think we're seeing.
Yeah, not the tip off.
Not the tip off. Exactly. That's really good. The other thing, too, is what he mentioned there, that half of the group didn't want to do future projections because we might have peace in the Middle East and the Strait of Hormuz might open up. And we don't want to be, on the wrong side of that bet. Okay. Which is good.
It's hard to project stuff when you don't know how a war is going to turn out.
Yeah. Now, if you're in the market for a home loan, what he just said directly affects you. Rates are going to stay high. So what are you going to do? You're going to gamble and wait 6 weeks? Or are you going to, what are you going to do?
You're going to have to wait.
Well, you could just opt out, go the Bitcoin way, and then it wouldn't matter. They'd be, oh, please print. I get richer. Okay. You bet against the what? The monster, the system, the smoke monster we call the government. The people who think that they can control your lives, who know that inflation is a choice, and continue to choose to inflate away your life savings. 60%. Based on the government's assessment, the dollar has lost 60% of its purchasing power since 9/11.
I believe that.
In 9/11, I was making $5.25 an hour working at a sandwich shop. Hoagie. What that means is today that would be about what, $13 an hour?
Yeah.
Right? So that would be like today, a kid getting a job at $13 an hour. That's their assessment. You go talk to people who assess this as independent third parties, it could be as much as 90%. 90%. So a dollar saved, if I work my butt off in high school and I save a dollar out of every hour that I work, I would have essentially saved 10 cents.
I was thinking about this yesterday. I was thinking, there used to be these stories that I would hear when I was a kid, like, oh, when I was a kid, I bought a Snickers bar for a nickel. Those stories don't play anymore.
Yeah, it's like, I wish I could still buy it for a nickel.
I know, but what I'm saying is that, when I was a kid, inflation, you could feel it over, 50 years, you could see the Snickers bar rising in price. Now there's nothing to attach the rise in the price to. It's like, why does a Snickers bar cost $2? Yeah. I mean, if I told my grandkids, when I was a kid, I bought a Snickers bar for 55 cents. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean the same thing as, your grandpa telling you they bought it for a nickel. It's not the same thing.
It's just expected. Is that what you're saying? What do you mean?
I'm going to have to think about this harder, I guess, to explain it better.
The way I viewed inflation was simple. When I was a kid, you could buy a cheap knockoff soda for $0.25, and you could buy a name brand for between 50 and 75 cents. It was $0.75 in the vending machine for a Coke. Okay. Right now, you go to that same vending machine, sitting in the gym or wherever you're at, and it's like $2.25. Yeah, to buy that same Coke. Coke hasn't changed. Yeah. Well, they tried a little thing where they went to a bad recipe and then they went back to original Coke. But aside from that, right? Aside from that, Coke hasn't changed. So Trump was asked on the tarmac about what he thought about interest rates being flat, staying the same.
A bad decision. They held rates. That's all right. Whatever. And it looks like they might even raise them later this year. It's not clear. Do you have any comments?
It could happen. I mean, it's hard to believe. It just keeps the country down. So it's so unusual. But we have a very good guy over there now, so I'm guided by what he wants. Was this his first time? Yeah, I don't know. I saw a statement. It just came out.
Yeah, that's okay, whatever. At least they didn't go up. He wishes they would have come down. If they wish it would, he wants them to come down. And I think there's some reasons for that. We're trying to rebuild America. But again, this idea that now we as a nation are rebuilding, they're spending your money. They're spending your money. And if you want to know how they view that money, there's no better example than the debate between the crypto world and the banking world, right? So here is, I can't remember his name. I think he's a senator. He's on with Maria Bartiromo, and he's talking about the Clarity Act and kind of the difference between the two. Tell me which side you think that Americans should be on. The side of banks and more regulation, or the side of the crypto world who just wants to be free?
Well, I think it's noble of Jamie Dimon to look out for all the little guys, but the reality is that every time we add a regulation, the crypto side says too much, and every time we don't add one, the banks say, "Oh, it's not fair." And I get that. There are two sides. I frankly listen to everybody. At the end of the day, however, I think just as your previous segment on AI, crypto's the same thing. If the United States doesn't lead with our values and our light touch regulatory regime, then this industry is going to go offshore. We have to be at the forefront of this. So I don't give anybody else veto power over my vote, but we do have to get it right.
We do have to get it right. The crypto world's like too much regulation, and the banking world's like not enough. The banking world wants control. And why is that? Because they're embedded in government now, totally embedded. They operate one and the same, right? Monetary policy affects all of our political policies, and it affects your everyday life, period.
Well, I think that the dollar also feels threatened by Bitcoin.
It does feel threatened by Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, big time. Should feel threatened. Now, I think the Clarity Act is going to marry up the dollar to the crypto world. That's my belief. And you know what? It'll be more efficient, probably be a little bit better, stop a lot of crimes, whatever. I'm cool with it. I understand that Bitcoin is the way, right? Bitcoin is how you can get some sovereignty. But institutionalizing and allowing the larger buyers to invest in Bitcoin is going to be good for holders of Bitcoin for sure. But over yesterday, Illinois did something that no other state has done. The trend up till now is states have been making crypto policy. So for example, in Florida, they have no capital gains on Bitcoin. I think Missouri might be the same, South Carolina, like all these different states have basically been inviting the crypto world, the tech world into their states by eliminating capital gains and income tax on Bitcoin, right? You're only taxed on actual income, that kind of stuff.
You know, opposite policy of Washington State.
Yeah, Illinois went a different direction. Okay. Illinois went a different direction. To my knowledge, they're the first ones to go this direction. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to keep their state citizens on the dollar. Why? Because they have incredibly high taxes that they use to pay for incredibly stupid stuff. I drove through Chicago a month or two ago. I wasn't really impressed. I wasn't really impressed. From the interstate, you can see, you know, vacant buildings and closed up shops and stuff like that. Wasn't really impressed. But they have a large social safety net. They're paying for a lot of programs. I'm sure there's a lot of NGOs. So Illinois just signed the most aggressive Bitcoin tax in U.S. history.
Whoa.
Starting January 2027, the state will impose a 0.20% tax on the gross value of digital assets exchanged, transferred, or stored for customers. So if you have two wallets and you transfer funds from one wallet to another, 20% just for transferring it, even though you never sold it.
0.2%.
Yep. Buy Bitcoin, it's taxed. Transfer Bitcoin, it's taxed. Hold it with a custodian, it's taxed. No profit required, no capital gain. Just moving a digital asset triggers the tax.
How can they even do this? It's a digital asset. They're in a physical location. How can they even enforce this?
It's voluntary enforcement, but they're, you know, a lot of people just going to do it because they're told to do it. Here's the thing about this. This amendment on their little budget bill was added the day that it was voted on. It was voted on in the middle of the night. It was signed the next morning by J.B. Pritzker. So this blindsided Illinois. Like nobody saw this coming, right? Move 1 million through a bank wire, ACH, or brokerage, and Illinois takes nothing. Move the same 1 million as a digital asset, and the state takes $2,000. There's no comparable tax on stocks, bonds, derivatives, bank deposits, or any traditional financial transaction anywhere in the country. The message to every Bitcoin company in Illinois is clear: leave. This is incredible. If you want to send money through the bank, $0. Exchange on it through crypto assets, $2,000. Save money. Save money. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unfreaking believable. Oh, Illinois, the land of Lincoln. Oh, my goodness. So another thing that Donald Trump does, because again, the nation is a collective, right? It is a collective. And the nation has a business. And Donald Trump is trying to change the business model of the nation. And I support this. I don't think this is a bad thing. But it also props up the same system that drops bombs on Yemeni kids and sells weapons all over the world and has been involved in a lot of, you know, maybe unjust conflicts. So it kind of ties in, right? It's like, okay, well, we really need to make America great again, because if we want to have, you know, America's behavior overseas circa 2006 to 2015, I don't want to participate in that, right? I don't want to participate in that. But I think that things are changing. I'm a huge supporter of the Trump administration, obviously. The technology world relies on the technology the world relies on was invented in America. We all remember Intel Inside. Stupid presidents took our economy for granted and let Taiwan and others steal our semiconductor factories. They forgot to protect our industries with tariffs. When I won my second term, third actually, it was clear America needed its semiconductor industry to come back to the USA. We design everything, but we need to build it here, now. So I decided to help Intel because we need to design our chips right here in America. So what he did with Intel was the Biden administration gave him like a $20 billion grant, and they didn't need it. They were literally just throwing money at him. And so they came back to Trump. They're like, do you want us to refund the money? And it was like, oh, actually, it's kind of hard to refund the money the way the system's set up. But what if we do this? What if we get stock for it? What if you can put it on your balance sheet as capital and give the United States stock? What does that mean? All of our asset holdings offset the national debt, right? That's why the Fed is willing to lend us all this money, is because we have all these great public parks. Like literally, Yellowstone is mortgaged. Okay, like our entire public world is mortgaged. Even your deposits in the bank account are mortgaged based on the Frank Dodd Act, they can do a bail-in and take your deposits to, offset the national debt or whatever. And so buying this stock in Intel offsets some national debt. It becomes part of the resources that we're borrowing against. So it started with that. Now, so I decided to help Intel because we need to design our chips right here in America. First, we helped bring in NVIDIA, and they agreed to build their first level chips with Intel. Next, Elon agreed to build his Terafab, the largest chip factory in the world, designed together with Intel's technology team. And finally, Apple has agreed to work with Intel to design and build chips in America. We decided to help Intel in exchange for 10% of their shares. Is that too much or too little? They were worth around $100 billion when we made our offer. Now they are worth $600 billion, 9 months, and they've increased their value over $500 billion. America's stake is now $60 billion. When was the last time a president made money? Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump.
Wow.
Yeah.
That means you and I both made like $10.
Yeah. Well,
sweet.
The question is, what are they going to do with this?
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to encumber it for more debt, or will they selectively sell it off to pay for services? Right? That's the question.
Or can they leverage it to grow?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting. Donald Trump's treating the nation like a corporation, and he's making investments.
Yeah.
Not only is he bringing businesses home to the country, which is what we want, those are our jobs, he's also bringing investment to the nation, right? He's re-dollarizing the world and strengthening the dollar. Not a bad thing for my brothers and sisters.
No.
Not a bad thing, right? Not a bad thing. Here is, and this extends to other things that Trump is doing, making good decisions with how we spend our money. For example, we've been throwing money away at NATO. Pete Hegseth addressed this.
You know, they felt the impact. We were clear, publicly and privately. We're not going to allow freeloading anymore. Excuses don't count anymore. Our dues, our NATO dues, are contingent upon other countries stepping up. It's not a one-way street. And so it's not as if this is a new message from President Trump or from me. And that's why most countries are responding positively, both publicly and behind closed doors. It was great to hear country after country say, we're going to meet our target, we're going to meet our target. There are still a few outliers, and we will be clear with them. And as we do this review, we'll change how we look at the continent as a result.
So what he's saying there is the NATO, right? All the countries that are part of NATO are supposed to pay some dues to prop up the worldwide military force that the United States is mostly behind. And a lot of countries just stopped paying their dues. This is a huge policy shift.
It was not supposed to be a dependency of the United States. That's not what Winston Churchill or Charles de Gaulle or Konrad Adenauer wanted or expected. No, Europe was supposed to be a military power allied with a strong America. This is the essence of NATO 1.0. As Dwight Eisenhower himself said as early as 1951, if in 10 years, all American troops stationed in Europe for national defense purposes have not been returned to the United States, then this whole process will have failed. Eisenhower was Supreme Allied Commander then, not yet our nation's 34th president. But he and his allied counterparts, all of them still living in the shadow of World War II, understood that NATO's power did not come from committees or from meetings or from small flags on fancy tables. It came from warriors. And for Europe's defense, it had come from NATO allies. That was NATO 1.0, a hard-edged warfighting organization focused on Europe's defense. But that spirit faded.
It comes from the warriors. And who are the warriors? The people. And if you want the people to fight in a war, it better be justified. They better actually be defending their own land. They better actually be defending their homes, families, and communities. What they've done is they've taken it from NATO was for the war fighters to defend their homeland, and they turned it into something where we were defending the business model. And they got weak because those decisions, NATO became small flags on a desks and committees of people. It didn't become anything real. NATO doesn't the members of NATO don't typically contribute the soldiers who actually sacrifice. It's a small fraction.
Do you know that much about NATO? I don't. I was just wondering who all the member nations are and which ones are the deadbeats, and are they deadbeats because they just don't have the money, or are they making choices with their money?
They're deadbeats because nobody asked them to pay.
That's so
why.
weak.
That's why. It literally is. As time has gone on, economies go up and down, and Poland gets into a little bit of a pickle financially. And so they look at their budget and they go, let's not pay NATO. I don't think America will back out.
Right. So they're just being a deadbeat.
Being a deadbeat. Exactly.
Right.
And, but this is a huge policy shift. Listen, you want joint defense, you have to pay. And by the way, we won't pay our dues unless you pay yours.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're going, oh, because those warriors that actually are NATO, they're all English speaking Americans. Right. So maybe Germany should pony up a little bit. Maybe France should pony up a little bit. And nothing makes this more clear than how weak and feckless NATO was in the eyes of Iran. Right. This was Donald Trump signing the memorandum of understanding that the Ayatollah already signed at his G7 meeting at a dinner in France. There he is, signing it. Memorandum of understanding. Now, what is that going to mean? I don't know. Does Iran keep its commitments? I don't know. But for all the people out there, especially some of the far right magtards, what's his name called him, right? I think even Trump might have called him that. I can't remember. The Tucker Carlsons and the Megyn Kellys, they kind of got proven wrong. You know that whole story that Trump was doing Netanyahu's bidding and America is completely taken over by Israel? Turns out, as this conflict is being resolved, maybe not.
It's appropriate that we release the agreement, and we did send a copy to Israel, by the way.
We sent Israel a copy of the agreement. Well, you sent them a copy, did you? You BCC'd them? We just reached the outline of a peace agreement with the country we are fighting with Israel without consulting Israel, bitch. That's exactly what that means. Shh, adults are talking. At one point, he said, I just think it's just too much. I think going forward, we may leave the fight against Hezbollah to Jelani, who runs Syria. Now, Jelani, of course, is a former Al-Qaeda leader. He's just a more reasonable person. If you're looking for humane treatment of civilians, you got to go to the Al-Qaeda guy, not the Israeli prime minister. That's what the president said. It's unbelievable.
Hey, our country's run by Israel. Maybe not. I think that's super funny, man. Super funny. Oh my goodness. Here's another thing too, and I'm very concerned about this. You remember that fire that broke out in that medical building in Tracy, California?
Yes.
Turns out
A few minutes
it was the
ago,
solar panels.
the concern is with the solar panels on top of the facility. There hasn't necessarily been a major fire inside, Gil. I don't know if you have updated information on that or confirmation that the roof is really what is burning at this time, not necessarily inside the warehouse.
Yeah, it was the roof with the solar panels that caught on fire.
In that clip, they showed a guy walking across the roof.
That was one of the firefighters. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Okay, they're trying to put it out. Now, another solar plant caught fire yesterday outside of LA.
What?
So we had one in Tracy, California. I didn't even know solar panels could catch on fire.
I didn't either. Do they all combust at 110 degrees or what? I mean, this is not good.
I have my wonder. One, this could just be literally sabotage. A gallon of gas, get it going, and then
insurance
it goes. It could, maybe. That's pretty, I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, how much is a solar system worth?
This could be a cyber attack that turns around and overclocks them or, sends feedback through it and sparks them up, gets them too hot. Could be that. But outside of LA, there was another one.
Oh,
there it is. There's the solar panels just going up in flames. Okay. Now this one was close to LA, and it actually caused the LA skyline. Look at this.
Oh man.
Look at that.
You don't want to breathe that.
Toxic. Yeah. Put the nuclear power plant out in the desert. It'll run just fine. You don't need no solar panels. I don't need no solar panels next to my house. These things apparently just randomly combust. I think the only way to keep them from combusting is to paint them blue. Isn't that the whole, avoid the current energy weapons or something like that?
Yeah, I think if you paint the blades on those wind turbines blue, I don't think they kill any birds if you paint them blue.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, anyways, pretty interesting. Some crazy stuff happening there. Solar panels apparently popping off all over California.
Jeez.
That's interesting. Speaking of California, Gavin Newsom's got some serious problems.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, Gavin Newsom.
Breaking right now out of California, Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom claims that President Trump and the DOJ are, quote, coming after him and those around him by trying to find a crime, his words, that does not exist. And what Newsom calls an attempt to intimidate him. Here we go. Listen.
Donald Trump isn't just coming after me because of my mean tweets. He's coming after me because I'm considering running for president, because he hates that I've consistently called him out over and over again for his lies and deceit. Donald Trump is simply the most corrupt president in American history. He's turned the levers of government into his own personal power ministries to reward cronies and to try to jail his opponents. So let me say it again. Mr. President, come after me. I'm not going anywhere. The country is watching.
Okay, so that is fresh sound from California just about an hour ago now. No comment to Fox and the DOJ as of this hour. A source there saying that there are several investigations into people around Newsom, including his wife and his former chief of staff, and they originate from whistleblowers. Fox News asking for clarity out of Newsom's office around what he means when he says the DOJ is demanding records. That has not been defined. We'll update you as soon as we get more word on that.
So it turns out this investigation actually started under the Biden administration. Now, they might have just used it as leverage.
That's a little unfortunate.
Yeah, but it turns out his wife takes a $3.7 million salary from their nonprofit that's funded by state funds. They've got some other things going on. Obviously, his chief of staff just pled guilty to a bunch of wire transfer fraud, blah, 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 tax evasion.
I wonder how long it'll take to find a crime.
Yeah. I've got a feeling at this point, they became aware of the investigation because people in their life were getting accosted by federal investigators. Like, hey, what's going on here? What's funny about this is it's kind of trying to rewrite the playbook they used against Donald Trump, and they're trying to take it for themselves. He's only coming after me not because of my mean tweets, because I'm running for president. Oh, so like when you raided Mar-a-Lago? Oh, that like they're trying to get that same sympathy. They think that people became sympathetic with Trump when he was being targeted. So now they're trying to reverse it.
That's not what happened, people. And it's not going to work for Newsom either.
Not at all. Not at all. In fact, Fox News, and to my knowledge, this is the first time Fox News actually ran this as a news piece. But when it comes to the Jeffrey Epstein thing, remember, J.D. Vance got on The View and was like, actually, Jeffrey Epstein was turned in by Donald Trump, right? They were not friends. They were kind of enemies in the end. Well, Fox News picked up that story 6 months late, right? when it was what's his name, Massey and MTG, they were more than happy to join in with CNN and jump on the Trump's protecting pedophiles, or at least leave that door open. Turns out that wasn't ever really the case, but Fox News is about 6 months late to the party.
Years trying to tie the president to Jeffrey Epstein. You even heard it this week, claiming they were best friends for years. Only now records actually show that Epstein hated the president, because he turned him into the cops. And the convicted pervy, alleged sex peddler, diddler, well, he came up empty when he went shopping for dirt to save himself. Tonight, we're also learning more about his final days. As you point out, according to the New York Times, if you believe such things, Epstein allegedly tried to commit suicide multiple times before he was eventually found dead. FBI agents said his cell was filled with ropes and sheets and other linens. Years trying to tie
it's filled with ropes and sheets and other linens. Yeah, he may have killed himself. Who freaking knows? I don't know that we'll ever know unless you get some kind of confession and prosecution. It'll always be in the annals of conspiracy theory.
Because this is a conspiracy show, I'm going to stick in the camp of I think he's alive.
Ooh, you think he flew on a private jet down to Antarctica and is hanging out there?
I don't know.
Who knows? All right, guys, we're going to jump over to private. We're going to hear from Harmeet Dillon. The federal government is stepping up the protection of your children big time. And they're using the levers of power that the Democrats left for us, and really George Bush Jr. left for us with the No Child Left Behind Act. It's an interesting tie-in here. So the very tools that they used to destroy our our social fabric through the school system, the Republicans under Donald Trump, in order to make America great again, are trying to turn the tide of that. Again, It's the levers, right? I don't agree that these levers exist, but if they do, thank goodness they're in the hands of people who want to do good with it. We're also going to talk about one of our local judges here in Kitsap County that is a problem. And I'm going to tie a whole story in with that. And then we're going to talk about Steve Baker and his how he got sued by the alleged J6 pipe bomber, the female Capitol Hill police officer. And they've basically moved to summary judgment in that case. And I'm going to read a little bit about Steve Baker's motion to set aside the judgment and proceed to trial. So we'll talk about that for a second. All right, we're going to jump over to private. We'll talk to the unoffendables there.